Welcome back to the Circuit Revival, where today we're going to take a look at this John Lewis DAB radio. Now this thing turns on and works, but the description said it keeps turning itself off just randomly. So it requires 4 AA batteries or 1 5-volt input. So let's just get some batteries and test this out. So let's just put these in and see what we get. Okay, so it turns on and is connecting. Okay, that's connected. And yeah, so there we go. You can see there. So yeah, that's connected, is it? And there we go, it's just reset and then turned back on again. So it is doing what it says, but not quite. It doesn't necessarily go back into standby, it just seems to jump back to one of the other programs. It doesn't seem to stay on what you've set it to. Now if I was to guess what I think is wrong with this, I think maybe one of the buttons is faulty, so it's like continually pressing, so it just keeps triggering, but I'm not fully certain. But let's get this open and see if we can figure it out. So it's just a bunch of Phillips screws in the back here. There's the last screw, and then will this just come off? Okay, there we go. And then what's connected here then? Okay, there's just some padding in here and a bunch of ribbon cables. I wonder if we can take these buttons off the top, and then I think this board might just pop out. Okay, I think we're finally free. So I don't think it's anything on this side, so I'm just going to put that off to the side for now. I think if anything it's going to be something on this board itself. So I think we might just remove the antenna. So the antenna, silver, so black on the left, silver on the right, if you can read the words the right way around there. So we'll just remove this off as well. We can get rid of the rest of that as well. We just take a look at the board here. So I feel like the issue is probably with these buttons constantly being engaged, so that they're kind of constantly triggering. So let's just test these buttons here, which would match up with, so they're your menu selects, DAB aux menu info. So if we go into continuity mode, which is the mode that beeps when we have a complete circuit, we're just then testing to see which way do these engage. So do we get anything there? And then we press it. Yep. And then the other way. Yeah, so that works normally. Yep. Okay, so those buttons work normally. Now I just need to work out, how does the press work on these? Okay, so I think, I'm not sure we have a difference already. So we come in. So we've got the 2 potentiometers with buttons in them. If we go on the right one and we go between the 2 pins here, oh no, I think it's just there, that's the variable resistor. So if we turn this all the way down, So there is a slight difference here. If we turn this one to the right, it does increase the resistance. And it does seem to max out. And if we turn it to the left, we do get an open circuit. Whereas on this left one, we get an open circuit. But then if we turn it right, we still get that open circuit. So unless these are different, which I'll be honest, they don't look different, I don't see why they should be behaving differently. Okay, so that's how the buttons work. So there's two contacts just at the top here. If we go here and here and press the button, it engages. If we go here and here, between those two contacts and push the button, it works as well. So we just try and look to see how all of these work. So far the only difference is these two are constantly shorted together on this side, but they're not on this side. But the board does look different. But then we know that the buttons do work. So if we go between here and here, these 2 points here, and push the button, it works. And then if we do the same on this side, it works. So far the only difference is these two contacts not working the same. So let's see if we can follow these around. So if we just go over to the scope. So here's the left one, where we can see the middle pin here is connected to ground, whereas tune isn't directly. And then they go through the board to somewhere else, whereas on the right side, the middle pin is ground, but then the left pin runs through into the board on this pin here. So let's go back to this side and then have a look on the other side and see where that goes. So our 3 pins are here. There is a, so this via here will line up with this via here, and this via, and this via, and this via here below the select will line up with this one here, I believe. So these 3 vias are where these go. So that makes sense that this middle pin is ground, whereas this left pin here, which will now be the right pin here, does not look like it should be ground. So if we then go through this resistor, what do we get? Okay, so we get nothing through it unless we push the button. So that must make sense as to how that's working then. So it's sending the path through the top, through here, and then back through this resistor by the looks of things. So are they not the right vias then? Okay, so I'm now no longer getting a reading on those pins. So on this right side, I'm still getting some ohms. For this left side, I'm now not getting anything. And it was showing as, okay, there we go. So I think this pot is failed internally there, because I just pressed it and it came back in. We'll try and see if we can get something different out of it by trying to flood it with IPA and see whether this makes any difference. But I think this is the problem. I think this potentiometer is not working correctly. So we'll flood this in and we'll just turn it and keep turning it. Okay, let's see if that does anything different now. Okay, so we have nothing on them again. Turn this left again. Okay, 100 ohms. Keep going left. Back to nothing. Back up. Now showing open. Let's go down a bit. and then give it 110. So this is doing something different now. It's still not behaving the same as this one though. But this one could be because of the circuit around it. But this one is definitely now behaving slightly differently. It'll give us completely open on one turn to the left, and then, oh sorry, completely open on one turn to the right, but then a short one turn to the left. So I think we're just going to flood this with a bit more IPA. And then put it back together and see if it does anything differently. Okay, so we've got the board in. The antenna's not attached still, so it's not going to get any signal. But let's try and see if we just give this some power, what it does, whether it keeps bouncing backwards and forwards now. Okay, so we're on. If we press one of these, it will come out of standby. Okay, so let's put us in standby. Let's try and work out which one this is supposed to be. So if we go out of standby, but if we just leave this like this for now and see whether it goes back. Okay, so it's not gone back to the main screen yet, which it had done by this point. So let's remove power, get this back together, get the antenna attached and see whether it does anything differently now. See, is it still turn on? Okay, something's gone. Oh no, we're on. There we go. We have the time. Then if we go BBC Radio 4, I don't know if it will connect. Service not available. Try 3. See if there's a radio station we can get. No, okay, so that hasn't fixed the issue. Okay, we'll get this back open because it's now doing it sort of even more. So it's now sort of like fully turning off. So something tells me either a faulty resistor somewhere or those potentiometers are gone. So we'll get it back open and take a look. Okay, let's take a look more into this board then. There's every chance that it's this board here is gone, and that's why it's not registering correctly. But I'm wondering whether there's a chance that maybe there's sort of like a resistor throwing out an incorrect value or something, and that's what's throwing it off. Or maybe like a bad smoothing capacitor or something. So we'll just give a test around here. So let's start with the two resistors on the back of the potentiometers themselves then. So the one that we think we're having problems with is the one putting it into standby. So I think that's this one here, which is the one without the resistors directly behind it. So let's give these resistors a test and see what they show as. Okay, so we'll go into resistance mode and let's see what these resistors give. So that's 103, which I believe should be 10 and then 3 more zeros. About 10k, so we're seeing about 8k there, that's probably about right, and about 8k there, that's probably about right as well. Then down here that's showing about 8, that's showing closer to 10, which I think is more what we should see. I'm wondering whether that's because it's behind this potentiometer and I'm now just reading part of that as well. So we'll just have a look around the board, see if we can spot anything. Okay, I can't see anything that stands out really, so I'm wondering whether these potentiometers are faulty. So I'm thinking what I might do is attach power to it again and see whether we see anything happen, whether there's any heat on the board or anything to show that something's working incorrectly. So all I've done is attach power to it. There's nothing else attached to the board, and we're just going to see whether there's anything getting hot that shouldn't be or anything that looks a bit strange on the board. So I'm just going to get my thermal cam. Okay, so here we are just with the thermal camera. So you can see there's one thing getting hot on the board, which is just this one component here, which if I'm guessing it's probably some kind of voltage regulator or something. That's probably about right. Let's flip the board over. And we have just the big chip in the middle is getting warm, and to be honest they're on either side of the board to each other, so it makes sense that that's the case. And if we try and push a button or something, do we get anything different? Okay, so I think we'll just put that into standby. You can see that's cooling down now, but now it's come back on without us pressing anything. Okay, fairly inconclusive going on there, but we can certainly see one thing is getting warm, but I'm guessing that's the main brains of the device, and that's where it's just turning on. So what we can do there is we can have a look at that voltage regulatory thing or find out if we can see what it actually is. Okay, so it's this device here, just this one in the middle, which we can sort of read there. It says, let's see if we can get this a bit clearer. 621.2050/33, so 6211A 2050/33. So I'm not sure whether 33 is like maybe 3.3 volts, but let's just see what this does on our continuity and then diode mode. So if we go between these two legs, $500 and something ohms there. Then between the outside, 500 and something ohms. And then the top, 500 and something ohms. That's a direct short, that makes sense, that's ground. So ground is then showing open, that must be the capacitor loading up. That's showing 591. What happens if we swap our leads around? Okay, that's climbing, that's obviously a capacitor. Again, that's like a capacitor charging. Let me know that's ground anyway. Okay, that doesn't look like it's particularly doing anything massively strange, I don't think. Let's test this in diode. So if we go red on the top, so we know that's ground, and then we get 0.5 and climbing there. That'll be ground. And then 1 point something there, and then between these two. 0.4. And the other way around. 0.5 and climbing. So far the only two things that kind of strike me as a bit strange is maybe the potentiometers are wrong, and maybe it's something to do with this. So I think the easiest way to determine that is, we know that this is the volume power one, is to swap them over, I suppose. If we swap the two over and we still get the same response, or we get a slightly different response, we should be able to pinpoint if it's these, because these look like exactly the same parts, I would say. So if we then swap them over and the problem persists, then we know that the issue isn't with the actual potentiometers themselves. If we swap them over and the issue changes and it starts, like, for example, changing into different stations and stuff, I think we can probably presume it's the potentiometers. So I think that's what I'm going to do next. Okay, so what we'll do then is we'll try swap over these potentiometers. Okay, so I went for a bit of a bold approach there. I realised it wasn't coming off any other way, so I decided just to try hot air, but just keep it moving a lot so that it didn't stagnate anything, and doesn't look like anything's melted too much. The button still works on the switch itself, so we'll leave that to cool down. Just going to give this a bit of a clean up. So I'll put this one up here. We know that's the one that was on the right hand side. Now we'll do exactly the same here with the one on the left. What I'm going to do this time to hopefully make it a bit quicker is I am just going to add some leaded solder to this one. By adding some leaded solder, it should hopefully help reduce the melting point of the solder. Okay, and I'm going to try and come in nice and quick with this because everything is still quite hot, so it should hopefully help it go a bit quicker. So we're just going to keep the air moving. Okay, that's now in place. Let's try just tack this down. Okay, there's those two. We'll just get the ground planes. These will help hold it in place properly. There's one. Okay, I think that one's on correctly. Now we just need to get this other one in place. Yeah, it's a little bit wonky, but I think it'll be alright. Let's just solder these points in. As they are not the straightest, but they're in place, so that is those two replaced there. Let's just clean this board up. Whilst I was here, I did remove something else just because I didn't know quite how I was going to get to it, so I just need to put that back on. Took off one of the plastic connectors because I wasn't sure how I was going to get to this, but we'll just solder this back on. All the other ones. One slightly wonky, but I'm sure it'll be okay. Okay, so that's the two potentiometers swapped over. They still seem to both function. And we're in. We have a screen. That's because we are actually now connected properly. So if we come out of standby, which I think is this button, and no, this one here. So we're out of standby. Leave this and see whether it goes back to the menu again. Okay, so far so good. Okay, this seems positive, so I think we'll get this back together. Okay, I believe this one was power. Yep. Attach that. Let's pull this up. It's connected to the time. Let's see. Oh, no. See whether we can get any stations and whether it does it again. The fact I can't get any signal either isn't ideal, but if we just leave this, it looks like it's still doing it. Okay, I'll leave it. I'm not going to touch it. We'll see whether it goes back to that main screen again. Okay, the fact I can't get a service doesn't help, but I think it's still doing the same problem. So something tells me there might be something wrong with that main like big chip in the middle there, the one that we saw getting warm behind the voltage regulator. So I think it's probably safe to say we have to call this one also a no fix. Was unfortunate. It's quite a cute little device, this. If anyone has any sort of thoughts on it, let me know. It'd be nice to get it up and running, but I think for now we call this one sadly a no fix. So we'll bring this up to 9, and it's slowly going back up again. We were doing so well, but there we go, 18 to 9. Cheers for watching. Any comments, let me know here down below, but if not, I'll see you in the next one.